people really care about working at companies that are recognizable.
Brown is woke, quote unquote.
Frats are definitely where a lot of the nightlife happens.
I've also heard stories of the sororities at Brown being super non-inclusive of certain people.
Like a very big drinking culture at Penn. You'll just like literally go to a restaurant, bring handles of vodka, and then you just drink it at dinner.
Ooh, I look so red.
You look great.
Hi, everybody. This is my friend Chris. Chris and I met when we went to high school together, and then we subsequently attended 2 different schools, and that's going to be the focus of our talk today. So we're wearing merch from our respective schools. He's got a P. This is my Brown t-shirt. So just tell me some basic facts about you.
So I'm Chris. I just graduated from the University of Pennsylvania. Go Penn, go Quakers, where I majored in economics and computer science. And I'm going to be working as a software engineer full-time in the Washington, D.C. area. Though not actually D.C., it's in Virginia.
Cool. Thank you so much. And just for those who are not familiar with me, I'm Lena. I went to Brown. I studied computer science as well. No economics though. And I too am going to be working full-time as a software engineer, but in the New York City area.
Yeah.
Great. So today we're going to discuss the pros and cons of our different schools and have a little school war.
Is that what's happening?
No, I think this video will be helpful if you are trying to decide between these schools. I know some people often are choosing between these. They're both in that solid mid-tier Ivy League.
Yeah, right in the middle.
So I think they attract a similar student, but I would not say they are similar schools, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not at all.
Our first question here is, I'll just direct this at you, Chris. So what are academics like at Penn? What is notable at Penn?
Penn is broken up, undergrad at least, is broken up into 4 schools. So you have the College of Arts and Sciences, which I was in, and then you have Wharton, which is the business school, nursing, and then the engineering school. You enter Penn going into one of those schools, and it's not like exactly really easy to switch into between the two, but you can always take classes in between any of them. So if you ever wanted to take a class in Wharton, you could take a class in Wharton. Nursing classes are a little less attainable because they're like really specific to nursing, but beyond that, I've taken Wharton classes, and I actually even have an engineering major through the college. So you can kind of take a full breadth of all the classes, which I really like. What about you, Lena? What was academics like at Brown?
I would say totally different from that. We did not have that college system. Brown only has 2 schools, the engineering school and then the general arts and sciences school. And like 90% of people are in the arts and sciences school. But what Chris said, you can cross-register between courses. I think the main notable academic thing is that there are no general requirements at Brown. You just take what you want, and you have to take, a certain number of classes to get a major, but the rest of your classes are totally free form, which is what they call the open curriculum. So you have to be a self-directed student to enjoy that.
What was that like? How did you enjoy the open curriculum?
I would say it was very challenging to navigate when I was a freshman. The advising at Brown is not great, and I think you need to have awesome advising for the open curriculum to be good. Definitely did not start out well, but when I was sophomore, junior, senior, I really appreciated having the open curriculum. Like compared to my friends, I didn't have to take so many of these classes that I had no interest in, and it allowed me to explore a lot of things that I was interested in, and that was really nice.
Yeah, I think the concept is really cool. We didn't have an open curriculum at Penn. We had a lot of actually really strict guidelines into classes you had to take, and I think there are pros and cons to that too. For me, it was kind of a pro because I'm the type of person who doesn't really feel the need to take classes if I don't think it's necessary, because I'm not very intellectually curious. So for me, it was nice to like take classes actually outside of my major. But then sometimes it did feel like I was taking this class for like literally just taking the class, and I didn't really gain anything from it.
We both just graduated a week or 2 ago, so that's been great.
I graduated like 3 weeks ago.
Okay, you graduated about 3 weeks ago. So, what kind of person does well at Penn? Can you describe a typical Penn student?
I think Penn students are generally known for being very try-hardy. I think the people that succeed the most, and I think that the ones that I think I see are the happiest, at least at Penn, are the people that are like really involved in a lot of stuff, like in terms of not just school, but like also extracurriculars and also going out, going to parties and that sort of thing. They're all kind of meshed together because like all the clubs throw their own parties, and that's kind of a lot of your social life comes from usually. What about at Brown?
That's interesting. I think there's, I guess, a similarity in that you probably do better at Brown if you put yourself out there. Going off the open curriculum thing, like if you are a self-starter, more driven student, I think you'll get a lot more out of your education, but that's probably true everywhere. I would say that Brown students are generally pretty introspective and thoughtful. They like to learn, do a 180 on you, but I would say they're pretty intellectually curious.
No, I mean, I think Penn students get a rep, or maybe this is just totally false. But like, I feel like Penn students get a rep for not being as intellectually curious and more kind of motivated out of doing things that you might need later on, as opposed to things you might actually be interested in.
The equivalent of that at Brown is there are a lot of really wealthy students. Since these students are very wealthy, and because there's a big social justice scene at Brown, the two of those together can often create situations where students are shamed for not doing the most social good possible with their degree. You have to consider the students who are able to just take these jobs that have really low pay are students who come from backgrounds where their parents are going to support them after graduation.
Yeah. I mean, I was always really interested hearing about how people at your school choose their internships and their jobs based off of social good, because at Penn, people choose everything based off of their name value. So that's generalizing, but like a lot of times people really care about working at companies that are recognizable and are like impressive in things. And that kind of gives you social capital.
There's not none of that at Brown. I think the most popular employer post-grad is Google at Brown. So what is the social scene or nightlife like at your school?
Frats are definitely where a lot of the nightlife, social stuff happens, at least in terms of drinking and like partying. But I went to that all of freshman year, and then basically none of anywhere after that. Almost every single club has some like social activities involved, and they try and do, there's a lot, like a very big drinking culture at Penn. You'll just like literally go to a restaurant, bring handles of vodka, and then you just drink it at dinner. And that's like a club bonding event that happens like once a week, two times a week.
Do you think the social scene is accessible for someone who doesn't drink?
I think it can be difficult. If there was a drinking event that I didn't want to drink at, I just wouldn't go because it seems terrible to like be around really drunk people just being sober. What about at Brown?
I would say it's different. Providence is not a big city, in my opinion. The campus social scene is definitely only at the school. And I remember when I was younger, I would always go to these like really gross frat house parties. And then as we got older, I think people started living off campus more and more. And a lot of the social or partying scene was like predominantly like people just having parties in their home and then people coming by. So I think it definitely got a lot nicer as you got older. There was a lot more like room to have a night out where it wasn't tromping through a really disgusting, heavy packed house and everyone is sweating. It could be like an enjoyable party where you could drink and like talk to people and socialize, and it would be nice. Not everybody parties like that or goes out, and I think that's pretty fine. I think it's like largely determined by the people that you hang out with, and you can choose to hang out with people who don't like doing that, and then you'll have a totally robust social life in a completely different way. I'm going to ask you a fun question now.
Oh, wow. All the questions have been so fun.
So describe, not with a name, but the worst person you met at your school.
Lena Elizabeth Shapiro. The nice thing about college, especially in comparison to high school, if there's somebody you like really just don't like, or just like don't get good vibes from, you can just avoid them.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really know where I was going with this question. That seems like the right answer. So what are the strongest majors or most popular majors at Penn?
I was in the biggest major in both the college and engineering, which is economics in the college, and then computer science and engineering. And then within Wharton, it's always finance. A Wharton student once said to me, going to Wharton and not studying finance is like going to a steak buffet and eating salad. Which,
At Brown, the most popular majors are, in no particular order, computer science, economics, English, especially English nonfiction, political science, history. Those are the most popular, so it's what most students end up studying. I think that's pretty reflective of colleges generally. Oh, applied math. People like that at Brown.
Math at Penn is not good.
Math at Brown is not good. Applied math at Brown is good.
How is the food and the dorm life?
People like the food. I didn't love the food. Maybe I'm just picky. So we had 7 dining halls, which is pretty good for 1,200 people in a grade. There's a lot of eating options. My favorite was the one that was all vegetarian. They used to have avocado toast, but then they got rid of it. Dorm life? At Brown, they need to step up their dorm life. It was totally adequate. I met a lot of friends in my freshman dorm. I really liked that it was totally random rooming, so I had to meet the person that I lived with, and she was someone who I would have never met otherwise. Beyond freshman dorm culture, after that you start living with your friends. There's only really one opportunity at Brown in the dorms to make new friends. I'd give food a 8 out of 10 and dorm life a 4 out of 10. How was it at Penn?
Wow. It's just not really good food. I'm not going to lie. The fact that you had an entire vegetarian dining hall is really impressive because we only had 4 dining halls, I think, for the 2 times the size, it sounds like, of yours, or 2,500 per year. So 10,000 undergrad. The food just isn't very tasty. I don't want to beat around the bush, but they do try and source at least 20% of the food that they use from local farms around Pennsylvania. In terms of housing, freshman year, you have to live on campus. For us, they opened up a new housing option that was freshman only, and it was the nicest building because it was new. So that was wonderful. I didn't make any friends because the building was so nice, and we all had singles. And I just wanted to stay in my room all the time. I was in a 6-guy suite and they were awful roommates. I was always the one who would change the toilet paper. One time I was I'm just literally not going to change it, and we're going to see how long we can last. And anytime I needed to do the number 2, I would go downstairs to the lobby where there were public restrooms and use that restroom. And 3 days went by and the toilet paper never got changed. And then I started living with friends and life got so much better.
So this is a question specifically for you. I know you were in a fraternity. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
So I am actually in a co-ed business fraternity called Delta Sigma Pi. DSD. Joined my sophomore year. I went to the same school throughout the entirety of kindergarten through 12th grade, and I literally didn't have to make friends. And so the beginning of freshman year was pretty difficult for me in terms of making friends. You tend to group together with people that you're very, very similar to. And so for me, that was the Asian community. I got a lot out of it. I made a lot of friends through that. But I think almost all of my friends ended up being in the Asian community, and I kind of wanted to branch out from that. I ended up joining this fraternity because one of my good friends, she joined it the semester before and she seemed to really like it. You're in a pledge class together, just very, very time intensive, but you spend it with your pledge class, which for me was a group of 10 people that I really enjoy. We're all still pretty close to this day. That semester, I basically spent so much of my time pledging and spending it with those people that I kind of was able to take a step back from college and reflect on what I wanted the rest of my college experience to be like. And I also got a really wonderful big out of it, a really wonderful little, but it's one of those things that I think really helped shape me. So I got a lot out of it, which is nice. What is Greek life at your school?
It's about 10% of women and maybe 20% of men, which is pretty small because Brown is woke, quote unquote. I'm serious. Brown tries to be
Brown is woke. No, Brown
tries to be politically and socially progressive, right? So fraternities, I think, generally have a bad rap because, there's a lot of hazing, there's a lot of sexual assault. So I think people at Brown, especially students, they're not so keen on fraternities. But I think the people who are in it get a lot out of it, especially the girls I know. But I've also heard stories of the sororities at Brown being super non-inclusive of certain people, of especially LGBTQ people, or just generally being a little racist. For those reasons, I didn't join. Oh, here's a little fun nugget. What was your favorite and least favorite class at your school?
Once you go to college, you were afforded so many really, really interesting classes. Even within your major, if you're not interested by the classes in your major, you should really reflect why you're taking it. So within my major, I took some really cool classes. My software engineering class was actually really, really interesting because my professor is just great. He made the final optional. he knew that we were all like people that are probably going to go into the tech industry. So we did readings from like a lot of marginalized groups within the tech industry, a lot of people that face a lot of adversity in both like the hiring process and then also at work. And that felt very different compared to a lot of classes in general, not even just classes within engineering. So like especially for a class in engineering, that was really cool. So I really liked my intro econ courses, actually. They're really fun. I think my least favorite classes also ended up being the ones that I had to take for my major that I hated. Within econ, it was like all statistics, econometrics, and then also computer assembly and time complexity. Those two classes also really sucked. What about you?
Like Chris, my favorite class definitely was my software engineering class. I had a terrible professor, but the next year they replaced the professor with an amazing professor who I TA'd for, and I really liked him. We formed a really good relationship. So that was also special for me for that class. And I took a lot of fun art classes, which are good, and my dance class, which used to be really fun, but then went online and was no longer as fun. My least favorite class? Yeah, I also agree with Chris. It's probably because, there are no concentration requirements, so it's never an elective, right? It's the ones that are in your major that you don't want to take, but you have to take. My systems class. That was my least favorite class. I just never.
Yeah, everybody's least favorite class. I have a question also. It's not fun.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess it's just, what's something that you just like didn't realize going into college that you kind of wish you had known?
That's a good question. I kind of already knew going into college that it was no. This segues that it was going to be a much bigger pool of people than at high school. And I was very excited for that. And I think that I came into college very dismissive of people I didn't immediately click with, just because I was like, oh my God, there's like 1,000 more of you. I don't even have to like try with anyone. I should only be friends with the people that I immediately am best friends with, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that's not how friendship works. Friendship develops. Yeah. But I think I was a little too, just dismissive of people.
Oh, I was 100% like that too. I'm still like that. That's something that I'm actively trying to work on because I need to have friends at my new job because I don't know anybody moving to Virginia/DC.
What do you think is the worst thing about your school? Like just the one-off, the thing you hated the most about your school?
Maybe you should go first.
This is so random, but I really hated that my school was on a giant hill.
Oh my God, I hated it.
You go into town and then you have to like hike all the way back up or take the bus, which kind of is annoying.
My answer to this question, I think one of the worst things, honestly, is there's like a pretty negative attitude around Penn, about Penn. There is kind of this big culture of disliking Penn as a way of gaining social capital or as a way of bonding. People kind of commiserate over how miserable they are at Penn. A lot of people kind of went into Penn thinking that it'd be like this great time where they could be with scholars and people that they really enjoy. And then it ended up being a lot of more like networky and kind of superficial than they thought it was. Yeah, I think that's not great, but I think there's a lot of really, really genuine people, and yet there's still this pervading culture that like people at Penn kind of suck as a whole, and that has been kind of unfortunate. And it makes me sad to hear, especially because it's the school that like I really enjoyed, and I thought I liked a lot of the people out of it. So.
Okay, but doing a 180, our last question: what was your favorite thing about Penn?
Well, there's two things. I'm gonna say two things. One is the people. Like I met a lot of really interesting, really like enjoyable people. At least from what I've heard in your experience with Brown, it seems like the people that do the best are the ones that are focused on what they want to do, and like they're very like they do well because they themselves are very motivated. But I think at Penn I was able to do well because the people around me pushed each other to be motivated. And then also the fact that Penn is in Philly, like that was really important for me because being a New York City kid, I wanted to be in a city really bad. Anytime that school just felt really too intense, and it really felt intense at a lot of times. Like I kind of just stepped out and like walked into Philly and like I realized like, oh, there's like a world beyond college, because sometimes you kind of forget that. What about you?
I mean, obviously the people, friendships that will last forever. But I mean, everybody's going to say about their school that their favorite thing is the people. So I'll provide a second thing like Chris did. I really liked how inclusive the school was. It was very open and accommodating of everyone, I felt. It just made it a lot more calm of a place to go to school. Like I felt in high school, everyone was very cutthroat with each other. Like, if you get into this school, then that's one less spot for me to get into that school, you know. But at college, it was very emphasis on collaboration, emphasis on helping one another, and trying to make sure, you know, rising tide lifts all boats. I really liked that. Like, it wasn't successful unless you were making sure that everyone was successful around you. So I think that's definitely a good mindset to go into life with as well.
Oh, a wrap up.
Chris, thank you so much for talking to me. I think we've concluded that Brown is the better school.
In this little war that we had.
In our war. JK. I think if you're interested in either school, it's probably a good fit for you. I suggest you apply, and definitely reach out to us if you have more specific questions about either school. But thank you so much. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
XD.